I was just talking aloud to Councilman Putnam, and he was being polite, nodding his head. At the rates proposed in the new contract, could you give some estimates on whether or not it would be more economical just to hire an in-house employee? Because it's $3,000 a month. That's what, $750 a week.
It is.
Get a third of that aside for even benefits. I mean, that's a pretty good hourly rate, and I don't think we would need 40 hours a week.
Well, or if we did, maybe they could do something like minor repairs or windows that aren't currently being washed, because it's not included.
Yeah, I mean, it might be helpful for the finance committee to get a comparison of the cost as proposed and what those costs would be, what the services we would get if we were to hire an employee for that.
That was kind of where I was going, but I wasn't going to say it out loud.
Okay, so it's going to go to Finance Committee before we see it at our next workshop. And thank you for getting that for us, Debbie. Next item on the agenda is relief from large utility bills. Mayor Sun.
I'll leave it up to Mr. Seifert to make a presentation.
Council. My name is Les Seifert. I am currently employed with Ron Hobby Architects. Been employed. I'm sorry?
Could you give your address?
Sure. 14900 Interurban Avenue, Tuckahoe, Washington. My current physical address for living is 37410 First Avenue South, Pacific, Washington. I'm basically a victim of the economy since it turned in 2008, and with that, we, as a partner, we've kind of kept our employees on a little bit too long, and try to keep them with living expenses as long as possible, and expecting that the economy would eventually pick up, but that's obviously taken longer. During that time frame, from now until then, look for other work and extra income, as well as my wife and family as well. But net result is, this is one of the bills that I've neglected to pay, and I apologize to the council and the city for my neglect. But I am on the road to recovery, and looking forward to getting back into the black. With that, I'm currently going through a loan modification, and with that process, I'm basically making my last payment of the trial period, which in hopes to get locked into a regular mortgage from this day forward, or from the time they approve it forward. I've made up all my other debt. I'm down to just a few others. I have kidney stone without insurance, and I'm working on that currently now. But when I came down to the city to meet with Mayor Sun and Clerk Sam Hall, we discussed some needs that the city of Pacific has in architectural services. And my thought was that if I could give you twice the amount of equity in architecture fees, that maybe we could negate the fees that I have owed. Now, proposed, there was some discussions of a city park just east of the city hall here. We've talked about the various items that would be needed or wanted for this city park, for volunteer park, and some of them, which mean a skateboard park, community center that would be for outdoors and indoors, year-round, possibly have a kitchen and a restroom, a sport court, you play basketball or any sort of a ball sport, as well as a little tanks or a hot lot, so to speak. We've also introduced some meandering walk trails so that everybody can kind of exercise, maybe take the dog for a walk around this said property. There's also, it was mentioned that there was a potential wetland in this property where we can enhance that and possibly put a little gazebo there for picnics or just kind of a visitation area. So I presented this efforts for you to take a look at. We can take this efforts further. I know that typically there's grants involved with getting some money from the state, and a lot of times if you're just providing a narrative to try and get these funds from the state, it's really pretty tough to get. But if you have an image to see exactly what you're proposing, I think this tends to go a long way.
Questions from council?
I don't have a question.
Councilmember Jones?
I don't have a question for him. I don't know about the legality of,
My concern, because it's being
Frank, I know what you're asking.
Sure.
And I just don't know whether it's legal to exchange services for bill. You know, that's a concern I have. So that's it.
Betty?
I can address that. You can't write it off. One fund cannot benefit from another fund, so the general fund or the park fund would be required to pay the water bill or the stormwater bill.
Stormwater.
So it would be an inter-fund transaction where one fund was paying the other fund and this fund was receiving the service. You'd have to pay it. You can't just write it off, but it can be done.
I guess one of my other questions is, I know this is something I've talked about, is it on our capital plan as well, our capital improvement plan? And I don't know if we can do that if it's not on our capital improvement plan either. I'm just concerned about all the legal things that are required in moving along with this. We'll have to do some investigating, I think, to make sure we can't make a decision off these two tonight anyway, but those are some of our concerns,
Correct.
I think.
Councilmember McMahon.
Good.
Is this a matter we want to refer to finance?
I'm thinking it probably should go to finance before it comes back to workshop, to discuss it further. Councilmember Jones?
The only other concern I have is the bill owed that you have. Are you able to get your services you need? Have you made an arrangement to continue having your services and the bill paid, or? Because we're talking about something that may take us a little while to figure out the legality of it, and whether we could use the service versus your need to have your utilities.
Yeah, I know that a good portion of it was storm, and the other part was garbage service. Since then, for some reason, transferred over to Featherway Garbage, or Waste Management, that's now taking care of our garbage. So none of my services have stopped. I get water up on the hill from Featherway water, basically. So none of my services have stopped, but I know that most of it, I guess the other part of these fees are the compounding late fees, and so they're just, there's a percentage of it that I'm truly responsible for, and I believe that I am late, and I'm by all means willing to pay it. My biggest concern at this point is there's currently a lien on my property, and I'm just in fear that it will potentially negate my loan modification. Therefore, I'm no longer potentially a City of Pacific. So, I've talked to the mayor and the clerk, and I do have some reserve funds that I've been saving up to discuss with potential workout solution as well. I've got $1,000 that I can come down and pay in hopes that I can get the lien released, and then, the that I would owe, and then would have some sort of a workout plan to repay this, and then after which, you know, if I fail to make that, then you simply place the lien back on the property. But in the hopes, in the time period, that my house is safe and I remain a citizen.
Are you going through the refinance right now?
Yes. I was awarded to make 3 trial payments. I've made 30 that I've just made just a couple days ago. My last is 3, hopefully. And then beyond that, I hopefully will be locked into a mortgage. But I just don't know the process of what they research. They have to go out and make sure that they've got a clean title. This is the only thing that's damaging on my title at this point. Is this lien for $5,000 for a $400,000 house. Not to take or lose it, would not be something to be, you know, fixed.
Well, with our process, with it going to the finance committee, it's probably not going to be able to be brought back before council for a vote until the 4th Monday. With that, you know, the finance and back to workshop and then back to council for a vote. I just kind of want to give you an idea what that timeline is looking like.
Sure.
Councilmember McMahon?
So I think in the past, when we've had questions like this, and there's been, I think you mentioned that there's the interest and the penalties that are still compounding, where council has said, let's freeze the interest and the penalties keep them from accruing further, while now, I think the ball's in the council's court, and I'd hate to see him be penalized for the interest and penalties while we, you know, go through our process. Recognizing this is a workshop, maybe we do want to carry at least part of this forward to next week, where we can make a motion to freeze the penalties and interest. Unless, Betty, you think that's something you've got authority as staff to do? No? You don't want that? So maybe I'll take my recommendation earlier and split it in 2, that we add this to next week's agenda for the purpose of freezing the penalty and interest, and also at the same time tonight refer it to finance for further research to give us recommendations.
Any other comments from council? Sound like a good idea to move forward that way?
Yes.
All right.
If there's any other, if say my mortgage company comes back and says, hey, you've got this lien, City of Pacific, is there any sort of documentation that we're currently in a workout situation, so that we can have some sort of a letter at the City of Pacific heading saying that I'm aware of this and we're in the process of working this out?
I think that could be presented in next week, when we bring it forward next week as far as looking at freezing it, that part of the wording in that document would say that we're looking at this and moving forward with it.
And I think too, you might be able to get a copy of the minutes from tonight that'll have this discussion in it, a summarized version of this discussion, and you could take that in the minutes from next week as well. Hey, look, you know, no promises, but
Sure.
we're talking.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a request for waiver of civil penalty. You're up, Betty.
This one is Mr. Patrick Shriver is requesting a waiver of penalties. This is another one where the balance was transferred from the previous owner and wasn't reported through the escrow process. So he is asking, if the penalties can be waived for that, and I wanted to get it, I didn't want him to have to come to, 3 or 4 meetings. I figured if I brought it to you, maybe you transfer it to the finance committee or to the next meeting, so that we can start moving on it and have the information, so when he comes to formally request it, we're not talking about the same thing for a month and a half, if that's okay with council.
Okay, so we want to move it to the finance committee?
Is that where you want it to go?
Councilmember McMahon?
Yeah, I like that. I'd also like, Betty, the same question on the one that we did a couple of weeks ago on the time
And I've already started that
Okay.
process coming, so that I'll have the information, but I just didn't want to have to come to 3 meetings before anything can happen.
Perfect. Councilmember Putnam?
Yes, if we could also get some indication of how it is that this, did they inquire and we didn't note, or did they not inquire about an existing balance? Was it a short sale and they didn't go through the normal?
No, they went through the normal process, and he thought that they had inquired, but we have no record of receiving that inquiry. And we keep those inquiries in file. So, I don't know, it fell through the escrow process, I'm not sure where. And I don't know if there's a way to find out, because they told him they inquired, but we never received.